All right, John Myers has got a presentation here on the SCARM planning software, which is interesting. There's a lot of software going around that you can use for planning your layout. And this is a good package right here. So I'll let John take it away. Oh, well, let me need to hold the microphone
Hey,
all the time.
well, probably. All right, so SCARM, it stands for Simple Computer-Aided Railway Modeler. The developer is actually in Bulgaria, but like if you got questions about it, I found him really responsive to email. The free version, you can have up to 100 elements, so that's 100 individual track pieces, what they call figures, which is like just basic shapes, like if you want to represent a building. Nominal cost to upgrade to unlimited pieces, usually about $45. Around the holidays, you might get it on sale, so look out for Black Friday if you want to buy it. The website, scarm.info. The free download to start and try it out. That shows you some of the features in comparison. And it also has a feature for a free version. You can run it as a portable app on a USB thumb drive. So like if you got a work computer and you want to piddle around with it on your lunch break, install it on a thumb drive, plug it into your work computer, and off you go. The license, when you buy a license, it is only for one copy. The license installs to the software. So you don't have to reinstall the software. However, you can, like if you have two computers, you want to try to share the license between them, you can uninstall the license from one, install it in the other. They do have other add-ons that I have not tried, like Model Train Simulator, so you can simulate operations on a layout you've designed. So I'm going to do a little demo of it. We're going to design a layout. So this is what you get when you open it. If you've ever used Atlas Right Track software back when they offered that for free, the layout of it is very similar. Some of the controls, like especially for Flux Track, a little bit different, but overall it's pretty similar. As far as what we want to design, I think everyone's familiar with this plan, or should be. So let's see, this was about 3'7" by 6'8". The first thing I like to do when I'm starting a plan, if I know how big it's going to be, I like to create the baseboard, which is basically creating your table. So 6'8", it's about 80 inches. So for creating the baseboard, you're just picking points to be your corners. And have to be exact, but I'll just kind of line them up here. And then on the on the fourth corner, a right click completes the corner. So it's the edit, create baseboard, which I've already created it, but then you click once on each corner, but on the last corner, you right click to complete it. Now, if you want to reshape it a little, you can highlight it so it's red. You can insert a new point, like if you got an odd shape, you could. Of course, it's not cooperative. So, like if you had kind of a pointed end to it, you could shape it that way. But in this case, that's not quite what I'm wanting. So I'll go in and delete those extra points. if I go back to my track plan, I kind of see where I want to start. Like this bottom corner was pretty close to the front. So I'm going to right click without the baseboard selected, and new start point, and then click once where I want the start point to be. And I can pick a piece of flex track. You can see you can, as you move the mouse, it'll curve. And if you want a section that is part straight, part curved, you can either click with it straight or click with it curved, and you can end up shaping it that way. But in this case, I'm going to start with it pretty much straight. Looks like it goes not quite halfway across, so yeah, that's about where that ends up. Parallel track next to it. You can do parallel tracks by doing a parallel start point and your track thinners. I'm actually designing this in N-scale Atlas code 55. Kind of getting sidetracked here. Let me back up. And like over here on the left side, you got menus for different scales and different track systems. Myself an N-scaler, and I almost always use Atlas in code 55, but like if you're an HO scaler and you use Atlas SnapTrack, you can choose that. There's so many libraries in so many different scales that you can, chances are you'll find what you're using. So anyway, back to where I was, parallel start point. Usually 1.25 inches. By default, the program will be in metric units, but you can go into the menu and change it to inches. And I want the parallel point to be above this. So where that red arrow is, the direction it's pointing, if you're standing there, above it would be to the right. So I want it to be to the right, and I want it to face the opposite direction so I can place a track parallel to that. There you go. Back to this. And then, let's see, there's about a, it's like that says it was an 18-inch curve up there. So another start point, another piece of track. And then that'll give me a point to start this curve from. And at the very bottom of the screen, it'll show you what the radius is. So right about there is 18 inches. And it looks like Mr. John Allen used a standard left-hand turnout there, but I think it would look a little better with a curve turnout. So Atlas makes a curve that's 21.25 radius on the outside and 15 on the inside. And that leads into that track that was parallel to the first one that I just placed. This was a little further up, so you can move stuff you've placed by either highlighting and then moving it, or you can move entire groups of track by double clicking it, and it will highlight everything that's connected to that. So you could potentially move your entire layout doing that. Put that right about there. I want to reshape this one that I've already placed. So I select it. Now, when you reshape a piece of flex track, you want to pick the end that you want to reshape. So if I reshape it, well, no, it didn't do what I wanted. Reshape, and you see how it bends that end of it. Whereas if I had right-clicked on it over here to say reshape, it would bend that end. So I want to reshape it there. I want it to connect to the outer leg of that switch, but it's not quite long enough. So a little trick I can do is I can snip a little bit off of the flex here, split, and you see it makes a little joint. It won't, the program will not make flex track any longer than what is commercially available. So in the case of the Atlas Code 55, piece of flex track is 30 inches. You get 30 inches of flex before you need to add another piece. So you had a right-hander there connecting these two. When you place a turnout to existing track, you pick the turnout and it'll ask you which end of the turnout you want to connect to, whether you want it on the end towards the points, on the straight leg closer to the frog, or in this case, I want it on the curved leg. Places it just like that. So I want to reshape this one to connect to the turnout, again with the same issue that it is not quite long enough, so split that, shape it, and that's connected. And then he's got a little bit bigger space with a station in between. So just stick a little bit of straight track before we go into the next turnout. Sectional track library is in there as well, so maybe a full 6-inch piece. And then there is another right. Sorry if this seems a little tedious and repetitive, but I think the end result will be worthwhile. So, and you notice as you curve it, when you get close to it being straight, it will snap into place. And at the bottom, well, just at the bottom of the screen where it shows the radius, it will change to saying straight. Now that distance is kind of misleading. It's basically how far the mouse is from where it started. But when transitioning from a straight piece into a curve, what I like to do is find where I want to start the curve, and I'll just go ahead and split it into another piece. And then reshape and next just like that. So right under that bridge, there was another turnout. So what I can do is split that one off. I'm going to move this temporarily. Stick a left-hand turnout in there. And then I'm going to move this back, but you see it's too long. So I can select that piece. It's not going to behave. Let me move it to the other end. So I can select that piece of track that I just moved and reshape it. And you notice when I get it lined up, it gives me a green arrow, a green over a red, that's going to connect. And it'll automatically shorten it to that length. Now, if you note, let me delete that one and show you something else here. When you're connecting curved track, a curved piece of flex, rather, you'll notice it turns green over red with a black dot. That means that curve is exactly aligned and it will connect. If you have a curve and it doesn't exactly line up, it still might connect. You can probably fudge it in the real world when you build it, but the software says it's not exactly right. So inside of that, there was a 14-inch curve on the hill. So new start point. And when you're placing these start points, you can make it point in any direction. And it'll show you at the bottom of the screen. I'm trying to use this mouse up here is a little tricky, but It'll show you at the bottom of the screen which way it was pointing. I made it go 180 degrees out because default, the start points always start off pointing to the right. Here, I've got this one going to the left. Put in that 14-inch radius there. And it doesn't quite make it all the way around, but since I've got a consistent 14-inch radius in that curve, copy and paste. I'm using keyboard shortcuts, but you can also right-click, copy and paste that way. Once you paste it, you can move it, and you got another one just like it. And we'll come back to that piece in a minute. So around the back, let's see, there's about a 20-inch radius going around to there. So, me. But that's not quite where it needs to be. It needs to be a little further out. So again, I'll take another piece of track, stick it in there. Except I have another one out past it, so I want to leave a little bit of room. So move this one back a few inches, and then split that one, delete the excess, and then move my curve back into place. That's looking about where it should go. And that continues on to the front. So again, I'll copy and paste. Still not quite enough of an angle, so copy and paste yet another piece. Oops, I pasted twice. And you notice when you've got a piece pasted on top of another one, you'll see an extra start point in there. You can go in there and just delete the excess and it'll get rid of it. So there's a turnout right there, left-hander. So put a start point for the turnout. And then, but I want it to line up with this curve. So I can zoom way in and then move the turnout until it's pretty much right at the bottom of that curve. Reshape this till it connects. Yeah, close enough. Close enough for software. And from there, it goes out across the bridge. So right about there's probably the start of the bridge. And I've split it because I'm starting the bridge, and I'll show you why in a minute. And this bridge had a bit of a curve, so and then you can always repeat the last piece of track you put down with the space bar, but apparently it'll turn out it's what I had, but need flex. So if you've got a place you want it to be a bridge, you highlight it, and up here at the top, there's a bridge and a tunnel. I want that to be a bridge, and it doesn't really do much in the two-dimensional view like this, but when we get to the three-dimensional view, it'll make a difference. So, I actually did this wrong. That piece doesn't go there. We'll fudge it. We'll bend that in a little. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, we'll split it there. What I want to do is at least get the basic over and under figure 8, and I'll show you how to do grades. tunnels, and the 3D view. That one, copy, paste, move it, and then you notice I've still got the bridge selected. I don't need that, so once again, I'll highlight it, select it, deselect the bridge. Around. So we've got a basic over and under. So what I want to do is add the grade. So right here is the bottom of the hill. I want to select every bit of track that's on that hill. And right here, the H in the red box is track heights. And come here, and I want to hold down the shift so that I don't lose the selection of all of them. And then I can raise that up. Probably need about 2 inches to clear an end scale, which gives me about a 1.5% grade on that. And it'll show you the track heights at each joint as you go around. So I want to do the same thing for the other side. Now, one limitation, it will not put a grade on a turnout. That, if you've got a turnout on a grade, you'll just kind of have to fudge it a little. So I've got that section selected. Over here is the top of the hill, same thing. Bring it up to about 2%. Oh, that was 205. Select those, see if I can tweak that. There we go. Now the problem is now I've got my bridge is still at 0. So an easy way to do that is move it and then reconnect it, and it'll automatically join back in at the right height. And also with the, like if we, I'm just going to kind of shortcut this a little bit, like how he had some tunnels on there, same as the bridge, you select the track, put in a tunnel. If you don't want a whole section to be a bridge or a tunnel, you got to split it so that only part of it is. So now we've got that, and then there's this 3D view button. It will render it in 3 dimensions. Here's our over and under. I had the bridge a little close to that turnout, but and you can kind of see what your layout would look like in 3 dimensions. And I could go on and complete the whole Gory and Defeated, but I think by the time I finished it, I might have to wake y'all up to get us out of here.
Now, can you do easements with this?
Not easily, not really. You'd have, for any kind of easement, either vertical or a curvature easement, you pretty much would have to simulate that by cutting a piece of track into multiple pieces and just having a separate radius for each short piece. let's see, what else can I show you? There's, yes, it comes with vast amount of, like there's 64 different libraries for HO scale. Yes. He was asking if it'll give you a shopping list. So you go to Tools, Parts List, all parts in the project, and it opens a web page with who makes it, what scale, what part number. Now, notice like with the Flex Track, I have 22 pieces of Flex Track, but it's counting how many pieces, even cut up little short pieces. But it says that 14 full-length pieces of Flex would cover that. How many turnouts, etc. And it also shows you the number of tracks, so, or the total number of pieces. And how I mentioned that you're limited to 100 with the free version. So if you had the paid version, you can go much bigger. For example, do that real quick, and then I'll open the one for what I'm designing is my home layout, which is about 16 feet wide. Actually, what's here is about 16 feet square. So, tools, parts list, 253 tracks in that one, or pieces. And now the program does get a little bit herky-jerky, especially in the 3D view when you're doing very large layouts. So it can take a little patience. Found that even with a fast computer or a fast GPU, it doesn't matter. It just gets a little herky-jerky. But anything up to half a basement seems to be reasonable. So the question was, can you automatically limit your curves to no less than a certain amount? No, you just, when you start building it, you just have to keep an eye on each curve that you place to ensure that it's at least whatever minimum you need. And the question was, does it highlight if it exceeds that? No. Again, you'll just have to keep an eye. Not, okay, yeah, to showing the table area, does it have any capability to design the bench work? Not particularly well. So what you can do, and this is probably not a good way of doing it, probably better more for like just representing structures. Like here on the Gorian Defeated, there was a station between these two tracks. And this same concept is the only way I can think of you could do that. People have done bench work on small layouts, but in the libraries, you go to figures and you have some basic shapes you can design. So yeah, this is not bench work. This is more of a building, but I can put a rectangle there. Gives me vertical position, which is the track level is 0. The height, let's call it 1 inch, just to call it, and we'll make it green. So we get a green box there. Now, if you look at that in 3 dimensions, you've got something that represents a station. You can apply the same concept to represent your framing members underneath. However, any figures, anything you draw will not show up. Actually, they will show up. Like if you have something below bench work or below 0, yeah, it will show up. So you could do framing members that way. The other option is to put everything, like treat your 0 point as floor level, not track level. And the question was, can you do multi-deck? Yes. What you can do is, let me try to highlight part of this. What I would recommend for that is that you do different layers. You can, where's the layer tool? So you can assign something to a different layer, and then see, sometimes it's easier to move something to select something else. So I've got these two separate. Sorry, I don't talk and do things well. I don't walk and chew bubble gum. So I think I've just screwed something up. Anyway. Oh, I did this wrong. Sorry, I don't work with the layers very much, but so you can transfer to layer, and that's going to be in layer 1. So I am looking at layer 0. I go to layer 1, that piece reappears. So what I would recommend you do then is like you do, everything defaults to layer 0, but you could do like your bottom deck on layer 1, your second deck on layer 2. That way you can view, or you can deselect one layer to be able to see just the lower deck or just the upper deck. And as long as the heights line up for your helix, the tracks will connect. And you just decide where the demarcation point is for that between the layers. Yeah, you could build your bench work on one layer, track on another. Nested layers. I don't think so. However, there is another little tool that may help. You can assign a color to different tracks or different objects. And that will also make it, like, how I was moving a piece out of the way to be able to select something else. If you have one set of track that's color coded red, another set that's color coded green, even though they're connected, if you double click on the green, it will only select the green that's connected. It won't select the red. That way, like if you design and layout design elements, you create one element, you could code that in one color. That way, okay, this I don't want to change, but then I want to try to fit it together with another element. So I'll color code the other element a different color. And then I guess whatever's in between could be a third color that you're trying to manipulate to make them fit together. What was the question again now? Yes, with the licensed version. So you can export as bitmap, JPEG, or .emf, enhanced meta file. That one I'm not familiar with. That you can save as, looks like just .scarm. Probably so. Oh, yeah. Hey, so the question was, do you still have to deal with the margins? I am not sure. I've never actually printed from it. I've always gone directly from electronic copy into cutting wood. The question was, is there a good structure library? No. Best you can do is just take the figures like I was showing you and just make an approximation. Do they have a user library? I believe there is some. I couldn't tell you for sure. That's not something I've looked for, but and so and that was in any rail that it shows footprints for structures, but doesn't show in 3D. The question was, can you do an electrical plan? No, I do not think there's any support for that. Sure. Again, with the color coding, you could designate your blocks that way. Depending on the size of your layout and how many blocks. I guess it depends on how many colors you can come up with and how you're going to tell them apart. Anyone else? Any questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. interesting software as an option because some of the other software you can find can be just a touch on the pricey side.
Yeah. Price is good.
Yeah, let's see if I can get. Oh, does he have to give up presenter? Okay, ah, all right. Well, anyway, I'll leave it a blank screen. It's not like we had to put anything up. Oh, yeah, that's it. There, you can look online. The nice thing is that software has a demo version. You can try it out, try some things with it, see if it fits your needs. There, it seems to be simpler than like any rail is fairly complex. It's not. It's probably a little bit more complex than this. And then there's CAD rail that gets to be very entertaining. If you're good with CAD drawings, yeah, it's really not too bad. It makes a really great diagram. I've used that before. I've used practically all of them. I haven't tried this one, so that's really quite nice. We have where did Rick go? Oh, Rick. He's got the election results. And don't forget, you have December. We have the holiday party. Sign up for it. It starts at 6. Doesn't start at 7. Starts at 6. Don't be late. You missed the food. But if you come at 7, that's okay. At least enough for the rest of us. And in January, we have Joe Nichols Jr. is going to be doing a presentation. We'll find out what it is. It's it's always good. Usually techie.
Thanks to the 6 additional people who voted tonight. So our results, Director of Finance, Jim Foley was reelected. Director of Operations, congratulations, Walt. Director at Large, Gary Fish, Charles Mason, and Joe Sullivan were elected. There were 4 positions open, but 3 candidates. So the member with the most write-in votes would get the 4th seat. That's Jim Travis, and he has agreed to take that 4th position. So thank you, everyone.
And congratulations to everybody. Guess I only get to do 1 term. Cool. Anyway, come back in December and we shall have a really good holiday party. Don't forget the Toys for Tots. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I'm glad you didn't have to worry about doing the